River Committee. Been joined by the Honorable Councilmember Jose Huizar. I'm not sure if Tom will come in, but he just might drop by and exude that energy. So we'll brace ourselves, but hopefully he'll pass by. What we'll do is, out of courtesy of the councilman, I want to take item number 2 because I know that's an item of interest. So we can just read that into the record.
Item number 2 is a report from the Planning Department on proposed draft ordinances relative to the River Improvement Overlay District and the LA River Rio.
Great. Like to come on up. And I know these are reports, folks, and they're important reports, and I want to make sure we keep on a certain pace as we move forward and continue with our accomplishments. So I appreciate your reports, and again, these are very critical just to keep the environment and the spirit up. But good afternoon. Please give us your name.
Good afternoon. I'm Claire Bowen with Los Angeles Department of City Planning, and I'm happy to give you an update as to where we are with the River Improvement Overlay District and the first Rio that we're doing. We're planning for the Los Angeles River. We had a public hearing last month and received a couple of comments at that hearing. We continue to receive a few more. We are planning right now on going to Planning Commission on January 12th, and hopefully then move these 2 new ordinances forth to council committees early in the year.
Great. Fantastic. In terms of feedback, how was the energy at the meeting? Was it, I know the housing issue keeps arising. Did that come up?
Not in relation to the Rio. No, the mood at the hearing was very positive. There were a couple of comments, one from Studio City suggesting that instead of native plants, we open it up to more California friendly. We certainly have some concerns that California friendly doesn't provide the same habitat and other kind of benefits that native do. Something we'll certainly be exploring and considering in our staff report.
Great. And no public comment cards on this one? Okay. Councilman, any question on this one? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. So we'll go back to item number 1.
Item number 1 is reports from the Planning Department, the Bureau of Engineering, and the CRA on river projects.
Okay, come on up. There's room for the CRA as well. I think there's another microphone there if they'd like to come on up.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Carol Armstrong. I'm with the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Engineering, LA River Project Office, and I'm just going to highlight some of the items in our regular progress report. First of all, I wanted to mention that the River Cooperation Committee meeting that we have, which is a public meeting with the county and the Army Corps of Engineers, continues to roll right along. At the last meeting on October 3rd, 2 projects were approved. The North Valley Heart River Greenway project in Council District 5 and the Caballero Creek project in Council District 3. The next meeting of that committee is going to be in January, and they will be hearing 2 projects. One is the LA Riverfront Greenway project in Council District 2, and the other one is the DOT Tiger Grant Bikeway project, which we're very excited about. Our river brothers and sisters over at DOT have submitted a grant asking for $13 million from the federal government, which the city will match with $5 million in local measure R. And that will substantially build out the LA River Bike Path in the San Fernando Valley and connect from Elysian Valley through downtown and the on-street network. I also wanted to mention that we participated in... On
that note, if I may, yes. I know the Congress members of that area were very focused on it. We went to go see them in Washington a couple of years ago. That became one of their focal points in our conversation. So I'm assuming we're keeping the Congress members abreast as to the progress on the bike paths?
Yes, definitely. And 2 of them submitted letters of support.
Right.
Congressman Sherman and Congresswoman Revel-Allard.
Fantastic.
Those are the ones I'm aware of.
Okay.
Also, a great segue into our federal relationships. The U.S. EPA Region 9 hosted a meeting of the LA River Watershed pilot at their office on the Urban Waters Federal Partnership pilot on November 3rd at the same time as the Rio hearing. And out of that group, we have 9 nonprofit organizations that have submitted letters of support for us to Washington, to the OMB Director, Jacob Liu, and to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, Joellen Darcy, in support of our LA River study and making sure that the Army Corps prioritizes funding for that and that Director Liu tries to get that into the President's budget. I also wanted to mention that...
if I may interject there, we did have a conversation with Colonel Toy and with the staff, and I think Lupe Vela and yourself are supposed to try to figure out the right language to establish this connectivity for future funding. And I'm assuming that discussion is aligned with that other conversation?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Okay, moving on in terms of river projects, the Aliso Creek Confluence Reseda River Loop project is undergoing a street vacation right now that we're trying to support. That project has already attracted over $1 million from the state, and that's being led by the Trust for Public Land. The North Atwater Crossing project, which is the river revitalization project, BOE, my river brother Larry Shue, has been helping coordinate city involvement in that project. The North Atwater Park expansion and creek restoration project is now under construction and will be having its grand opening in the spring of 2012. Sunnyshook River Park is 100% designed, and that lease is pending. It's been going through the approval process. It still needs to go to the Board of Recreation and Parks Commissioners and then back to the City Council, as far as I understand it. And then I also wanted to congratulate everyone, because on October 12th, we had the wonderful coming together of the California Senate and the Assembly on their LA River hearing in the Valley. Thank you, Councilman, for helping to cheerlead on behalf of everyone here in Los Angeles and prioritizing the river for the state of California. And I also wanted to mention that we were very excited that Council Districts 4 and 13 held their river event on the river on October 29th, and Megan Whalen from our office participated in that. And we were very excited that Lupe Vela organized the city's participation in the visit from the Smithsonian Institute, and we wanted to thank her for that, because that's another great national recognition for the river.
So on that note, I'm hoping that we could, for the next few months, it doesn't have to happen right away, but if we can start going back through some files and maps and try to get the before and afters, especially around the areas that you've got these parks being built and these schools being built and these other facilities that are being built in the corridor, especially its relationship to the river. I think that's something that the people like to see. When I looked at the where the river meets the Platte and what they were doing in the 70s versus today, it's amazing. And they kept those before and afters. We should do that for the Smithsonian so people can see that.
We can definitely do that.
Okay.
And I wanted to end by letting you know that ESRI, which is the leading company in terms of geographic information systems technology, has released its new project workbook. So anybody who goes to school and is studying GIS is going to get this book, basically, in universities across the country. And the main project that they're highlighting in it is the LA River.
Ta-da.
So that's you.
Great.
So,
Now, is this graduate or undergraduate?
both.
It's both.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Go
they're going
River.
to sell some books. Get down. All right. And the state issue is significant in that now the state is focused on the river, and they're creating committees, and they're looking at getting some traction and providing that attention that we need from the state to continue this big picture work, right?
That's right.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Councilmember, anything?
No, I'm gonna go back and read that book. I recall when my class covered the GIS section, I was out for a week, and so and I have an opportunity to go back and read up on GIS.
Well, we'll have an exam next week. We'll have a test for you next week. Great. So, sir?
Great.
Yeah, you have to excuse me, I'm a little sweaty right now. I've been riding my bike in a loop down Spring Street and Broadway for about
You're the reason why.
5 minutes. It looks great, by the way. Hopefully.
And kudos to Councilmember Huizar on that effort. Fantastic.
It's good.
So how many times did you write it?
Jason Neville?
What's your, it's a different feeling, right? I mean, you feel like you're your own space. It's like this is our green space, right?
I think the most important thing is that LA make it safe for people other than young, brazen dudes to ride their bike in Los Angeles. I think when grandmothers can ride their bikes safely, then we know we've gotten there.
With the poodle in the basket.
So in the bike lanes help identify it for drivers, so it's great. It's really great.
Good job.
There's been a staffing change at CRA, and I'm no longer be doing the reporting to this committee. My colleague, Stephen Anderson, will be. So I'm going to turn it over to him to give the report on our update.
Sure.
My name is Stephen Anderson. I'm with the CRA, and Jay Verada and I will be representing the CRA on all river activities. And we're very optimistic, pending the lawsuit litigation, that we can get much more involved in the coming year. But I wanted to give you a brief update since the last ad hoc meeting of what's going on. As you all know, we're currently in litigation with the court stay with the lawsuit with the state of California, and there's expected resolution on that in January. We're hopeful we can return to normal business then. We're working with River Corporation and Revolution Foods to find a headquarters site somewhere along the river, and we've been making progress on that. We had a meeting last week with Revolution Foods. We're also reaching out to Trammell Crow to discuss with them options for the G2 parcel in Council District 1. On the CASP redevelopment project area, we participated in a specific plan meeting on October 15th.
Right.
Again, the CASP redevelopment expansion will happen when we are able to resume normal business again. And then I wanted to give you an update on the HUD grant. We are moving forward with the $2.25 million HUD grant, and our first formal meeting with the NELA Collaborative will be in December or January as soon as we've finalized our contracts.
Right. And just for the record on the G2 piece, you're speaking to him on concept. There's no support, there's no approval. Everything's just about theoretical, conceptual discussions, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure that's on the record because then I'm going to get some emails and some phone calls.
Okay, yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little?
Well, I mean, we've reached out to Trammell Crow. We have another project with them, and we have an existing relationship with them, and we're trying to see if there's some sort of resolution here between the goals of the river and the goals of the CRA and the goals of Trammell Crow that can work for everyone on that site. But it's very preliminary at this point.
Because many stakeholders regarding the master plan and its prominence in our city and in my district. So I just want to be very careful how we say that because I don't want to mislead anybody.
Okay.
There are no agreements. There are no arrangements. There's just discussion and concept. I appreciate that very much.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Item 2? All right. Well, thank you so much. So we'll note and file both 1 and 2. All right.
Oh, do you want me to?
Oh, please.
For the planning part
Please.
of the,
I'm sorry.
of,
Go ahead.
Of item 1.
Before I pull the trigger here, okay, go ahead.
That's okay. So Claire Bowen, Los Angeles Department of City Planning, and I am pleased to give you an update on the Cornfield Arroyo Seco specific plan that actually CRA just referenced that they've also, I mean, right now they're kind of on hold, but I'm pleased to let you know that certainly the plan itself is moving forward and the environmental impact report. We did have a joint meeting with CRA on October 15th and had about 100 people attend and give us some comments on the environmental impact report. The comments for that draft EIR are due today, and so we expect to spend the remainder of November and December reviewing those comments and certainly then seeing if there needs to be any adjustments to the plan itself in response to those comments. We plan to have a new draft of the plan and then the final environmental impact report out early in the new year and then start it on its way towards commission and adoption. You did start to allude a few minutes ago to the issues of affordable housing. That is certainly an issue that's very prominent, and certainly there's a lot of concern in the community about gentrification and issues of displacement that we'll certainly need to be addressing in any revisions we make to the specific plan.
Great. Well, again, thank you for your hard work. I know it's been a little tumultuous there on the housing issue and getting to the balancing act. So we will continue our best with Costa Hawkins and the horizon. That seems to corner us as to our limitations to how we provide these incentives and or maintain a stronger posture in requiring affordable housing.
Well, it's certainly an important issue, and we're certainly pleased that the advocates are certainly bringing it to our attention to make sure that we can really have a thoughtful discussion and see what kind of solutions there might be.
Has the housing department been addressed in any way? Any personnel from housing given any kind of insight? Because I know they are very interested. I know the director, Guthrie, has been very positive in wanting to help, and he would like to be included in the loop, if you will, as to see how they can also address these issues.
Yes, we're working with them, and actually Jill Soriel from your office has been helping facilitate those conversations. We're hoping to chat with them this week, if not early next week.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Again, thank you for your hard work. Hi there. Good afternoon.
Kelly Bernard, Director of Economic Development for the Department of Water and Power.
And we will formally address you right now as item 3.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Kelly. And we'll note and file 1 and 2, right?
Right.
Okay.
Noted and filed for 1 and 2. Item number 3 is a quarterly status report from the Department of Water and Power on the LADWP's work to maintain its right-of-ways along the river.
Great.
Yes. In the record, we have the last quarterly report that's dated September 13th, I believe. That was work that was done when our crews went out and inspected the right-of-ways and provided the maintenance. This summer, there is an updated quarterly report. The crews were out there on September 15th and the 21st, clearing the trash and removing the graffiti along our
Right.
easements. And so we have done that. The official letter just hasn't been signed off by
I
our
see.
general manager, but the work has been done.
My assumptions are that we will have some way to gauge where it's being cleaned and how often, with some kind of a map or report that will give us some indicator as to where it's happening, because it's a pretty long corridor. Is there something available like that in the near future?
I will work with our power systems. They're the ones that, well, it's both water and power systems, but it's primarily the power system
Right.
crews that are taking this on.
That corridor.
The corridor, and so I know they go out and inspect, and we have the dates. I will find out if there's a way that they can just keep a better reporting and mapping of.
It just shows where it's happening, so that way if, let's say, one of the council members has a project with a local school or a nonprofit that they want to enhance or build upon your efforts. I'm not trying to put more projects on your plate, but if there's a way to coordinate and leverage your presence with other nonprofits who have a desire to improve that stretch of along the river, especially under the power lines, it could make a huge difference. So it's a matter of coordinating information right now.
Sure,
'Cause-
and I think most of what our crews are doing is just as part of their kind of
Maintenance.
maintenance routine. They're out there. It's not, a robust area, unless, of course, we get calls and there's a particular area that's concerned. For example, over this past quarter, we received some complaints about graffiti on one of our tower foundations at
Right.
the North Atwater.
Well, let me throw out a what if. We have the brand new high school right there on Taylor Yard, just south of Fletcher Drive. I'm sorry, north of Fletcher Drive as you're coming in. And that pocket, you have a new high school. You have, I think, 18. How many students are in these high schools these days, Jose? Remember?
Bunch of high schools. That one there?
Yeah.
2,500.
25. And I mean, you have a whole group of folks. And I walk that corridor, and it's essentially just looks like it's empty land that's just sitting fallow. Yet we have ways to connect with the students. They can do forestry, they could do landscaping, they could do urban experiments that deal with greening, and the land is there. So I'm just thinking in the future how we are more proactive in stimulating relationships, and in the process we clean it.
Sure.
So just food for thought, but let's see what we could do. But I know we're working on the maintenance of it.
Well, we're definitely working on the maintenance. Our staff in both systems continue to support the efforts and the developments that are
Yes.
going on. The Aliso Creek confluence, the Sunny Nook project. So we
Right.
continue to process those and do what we can to move those along. So
And I appreciate that, really. I know there is a lot of good stuff happening. It's a far cry from 4 years ago, believe me.
yes, and, and under the circumstances, we're just trying to keep our commitments as is.
I hear you.
We are going through, we're beginning the process for our 2012-2013 budget process. And so in the past, our systems do not have line items to do the work along the water. They do it, if they're out there, that they'll take care of it. Or we're reviewing plans, they just kind of pick it up. And so this year, we are going to try to make a push so that their employees can have dedicated
Time.
time to do it.
Okay.
As the activity along the river picks up, it's requiring a bit more work from our department staff, and so they're having to justify their timing. So we're going
These are good problems. These are good
Yeah.
problems. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Does that conclude item number 3?
Yes.
So we can note and file that one as well? And last but not least, item number 4.
Item number 4 is a presentation by the Bureau of Sanitation relative to projects in the Los Angeles River watershed.
How you doing?
Hi, good afternoon. Wing Tam with the Bureau of Sanitation. And you should have in front of you just a report with lots of activity working on from Bureau of Sanitation. But I'm going to just highlight a few items for your consumption. Let's start out with some of our greening initiative. The first one is our LID ordinance, or low impact development. With all your help, that was passed and is affected now. And we're working on right now is to develop some work outreaching to the development community people to best way to implement this ordinance. And basically, for a lot of developments, we want to be able to emphasize retaining, infiltrating water on site. So that's the idea behind this ordinance.
Great.
Now that we're done with that, we're now working on the stream protection ordinance. We held some preliminary meetings, and we're drafting some initial stream protection guidelines, and we'll be working closely also with Army Corps as well as county to how best to protect the LA River as part of this. So we have future meetings to go over that stream protection issue. The third one is the water IRP update. This is our 5-year update. We did this in 2006, and we're basically updating our integrated resource plan for water this time around to include the LA River Revitalization plan for this particular update, so that we could protect also the LA River as part of this water integrated effort. And let's see, one of the other items that we've been having what we call Green Street Committee. We've been meeting on a monthly basis. And that particular meeting encompassed all the basically city partners. One, we developed a number Senate plan for Green Street, and one of the projects that came out of committee is a Riverdale project that was completed last year, which is right adjacent to the LA River. We're monitoring performance, see how well that works, and in future we'll have more of those type of project adjacent to the river. So that we've decreased the amount of water that actually, in terms of peak flow, get into the river.
And this all impacts the overall goals with TMDLs and all the other federal mandates we have in the state as well, correct?
That is correct. That's correct.
Fantastic.
As update to trash TMDL, we basically met the 70% compliance requirement as of September. Every year we have a certain amount of goal that we have to meet for TMDL requirement, so we met that, and next year will be 80%, and all that until 2014 when we be 100%. Okay.
Great.
Some green projects. One project dear to your heart is the Albion Dairy Park. As you know, demolitions is proceeding. There was some soil and underground pipe issues, but that was resolved. But the important thing is that we're working on developing the final concept report and be able to get additional money to implement that project once the site is already cleaned up and everything else with that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
One last thing a couple last things. Humber project is right now in design phase. This is the Humber neighborhood project adjacent to LA River also. We're somewhere around 30 to 40%, and we're actually scheduling a meeting with your staff sometime next week to go over more detail of that particular project. And one last one, we've been working quite a bit for the last few years with the LA County Public Health in terms of use of rainwater, stormwater, what is the uses and what's the public health uses out of that. So after many years, the matrix finally approved and signed by the County Public Health. So it'll be, I would say, probably the first one in the state to be able to come up with a use of the captured rainwater. And as far as I know, the state and county is looking at adopting something similar.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, one of the observations from the gentleman that is working with Smithsonian is that, as he shared with me about the Anacostia River over in D.C., is that what he was impressed with is that when he went to the master plan, we didn't start talking about development until halfway through the book. All of our parts have been about greening, about stormwater harvesting, looking at all the methods and approaches to improve the river corridor. So he felt in doing that we can actually build upon scenarios that prioritize these kinds of principles and values and projects. So in essence, start with a solid foundation based on greening, based on water recycling, based on environmental principles. So I want to thank the staff for that, because as we continue to push, people are learning on how we're approaching this, and it's very positive. Any comments, Councilmember? Any observations? Okay. So note and file on this one. Thank you very much. And I do believe we have one card on public comment. And I just have a couple announcements, and we're done. We have Mr. Barry Johnson. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, how are you? Barry Johnson, Studio City stakeholder, and I'm here for both the Studio City Residents Association and the Studio City Neighborhood Council. I just wanted to bring to the attention of the ad hoc committee that both organizations have submitted some concerns to the LA Rio ordinance that were verbalized at the November 3rd ZA hearing. They've now been turned in writing to Claire Bowen, city planner, and you've been provided copies of them. And I just wanted to say the one point that both of these letters has, and we think it's very important, is that because the Rio's goal is to return to a natural state along the river, that we believe the Rio should clearly state that sign districts should be prohibited in the Rio. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Very strategic, sir. Thank you very much. All right. So that covers the public comments. And just one announcement here is many of us have been influenced and benefit from Mr. Scott Wilson and his legacy here in Los Angeles. At the time when no one was listening, he was very profound in pushing the whole concept of ecosystems and trees and how it affects our city. On Sunday, November 27th, from 2 to 5, a program will commence at 3. They'll be having a Celebrate Scott Wilson's Life, and the event will be at the Women's 20th Century Club at Eagle Rock, 5105 Hermosa Avenue, Los Angeles, in your district, Councilmember. And the family requests that in lieu of flowers, donations be made to Northeast Trees, 570 West Avenue 26, Suite 200, LA 965. So again, I invite you all to me. Scott was, back in 1991, he was the one person that sat me down, and we literally sat by the river under the Riverside Drive Bridge. We sat there for almost 2 hours, and he just started breaking concepts down to me and looking at the watershed. And it's the first time I heard of stormwater harvesting technologies, and he was just an amazing man. And I had no clue who he was, but I sat there listening, thinking, man, this guy must be a professor or something. And at the end, I started asking, where'd you go, and where are you from? I mean, in the positive way. And he was like, I was a professor at this school, I taught at this school, and all the stuff that he was doing, just amazing to me. So hopefully you can all share in celebrating Scott Wilson's life. Okay, so anybody else? No? Okay, well, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.